So I find myself in Tokyo downtown, and I'm reflecting on the wonderful conversation that I had with Shigeto Tobata from the University of Tokyo on the evolution of biology and social, collective intelligence of ants. And our conversation went in the direction of questioning the foundations of the social life of ants. And I had this kind of insight that probably the ants were more clever than we typically credit themselves. And Shigeto Tobata agreed, basically. Of course, what I'm going to say is entirely due to my own thinking. So Dr. Tobata has nothing to do with it. So it's entirely my. Look at this construction site. It's quite interesting when we discuss swarm intelligence. We tend to start from the assumption that each agent is not that capable of handling information and carrying out computation. An extreme example, I think, would be the neural networks. We tend to think that neurons do not have such a complex capacity for handling information, and it's only through the dynamics of the network characterized by synaptic weight and so on that the really remarkable capability of human brain realized. And of course, this is the assumption behind the remarkable development of artificial intelligence now. For example, large language models. So as a first approximation, I think we're on the right track. We are spot on with grasping the. But I came to a really wonderful place on part of Tokyo, downtown, and I just had to mention that. Anyway, so that's the assumption, but you don't know, because there was this classic paper by Bray in 1995, I think, and which argued that a single cell is as capable of handling information and computation as the entire brain. Of course, this is a highly speculative idea, but if you look at the complexity of signal pathways and all the reactions that go on in the cell, there's a comparable complexity to that compared to the neural network. So the connectionist model, which handles the dynamics of neural networks in terms of synaptic weights and the dynamics that are induced by them, is only part of the picture. So, that same can be said probably about ants. They communicate with pheromones, and there's this intelligent behavior emerging from the interaction of tens of hundreds of, sometimes tens of hundreds, tens of thousands of individual ants, and we tend to assume that each ant is not that capable of cognition, but it may be the case that each hand actually has highly developed cognitive abilities, and they may be actually capable of even free will. If you look at the human society, of course, we are, each of us are ego-centered and we have self-consciousness, so we know very well that each of us has certain agency, and each of us probably have free will, at least an illusion of it. So the human society is not made of simplistic, simple-minded agents. We know that for a fact. Well, we think we know for that for a fact. But if you look at a busy station like the Grand Central in New York or Shinjuku Station in Tokyo, the movements of the people, look like ants moving around the nest, carrying things, carrying information, executing their tasks, and it's not that different from, human society. I mean, human ant society. Human societies are not that different from ant society. So when you have that vision, you start to think, you start to see a really huge gap in our argument. We tend to model the neural network starting from the assumption that each neuron is simplistic, and we tend to regard the ant society, from the assumption that each ant is, fairly simplistic. But you never know if that's actually the case. In actuality, each neuron might be capable of really highly developed cognitive abilities. The same can be said about individual ants. They may be really capable of doing things on their own, and the swarm intelligence or collective intelligence that emerge might be actually due to the existence of these highly developed capabilities of the individual agent, a neuron or an ant. So I think there's a genuine need for a model or theoretical framework which treats individual agents and the network on the equal footing, at least expressing the internal dynamics of each agent, each single agent, like the neuron or the ant, explicitly, and the network's dynamics would emerge on top of that. Of course, such a model would make the theoretical framework more complex, and computationally speaking, of course, a neural network starting from the assumption that each neuron is simplistic, is capable of computational universality, right? So you don't actually have to look further than that, you might argue. But when we realize, for example, in order to treat language, we really need to look at the really complex capabilities of each agent, as well as the network of language and so on. You start to see that there are certain cognitive areas that are simply beyond the simplistic description of network model based on the assumption of simple agents. So the conversation with Shigeto Tobata was quite an inspiration for me. I kind of started to see a brave new world of a network model starting from the complex agent assumption, which can be provided to neural networks, as well as the society of ants and, of course, the human society. And that's my thoughts on this episode of Think Tokyo. So in this episode I covered the downtown Tokyo area, and I think I'm quite near the Echujima station now. I started from the Monzai Nakacho station, and then I'm approaching the Echujima station, I believe, or I hope. Yeah. Almost there. So, by the way, this is Tokyo Marine University, I think. It's a really wonderful university, specializing on marine biology and so on. And of course, my argument can be applied to many, marine life as well. So probably this need for a description fairly balanced on the complexity of networks and complexity of agent is very, very important and very necessary and probably long overdue.